but I'm just a rock chick.
I would describe my music and my sound as Avril Lavigne.
It's the best damn thing.
Welcome back to another episode of the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast, a facts and trivia-based podcast about Canadian pop singer Avril Lavigne. I'm your host, Andrea DiFrancesco. In this bonus episode, we'll discuss the latest in Avril news since our last episode all the way back in April. Though it's been unusually quiet for Avril, she's been taking some time off, there's still a few pieces of news to discuss, including an invitation to the wedding of the century, an anniversary collection for Goodbye Lullaby, and some interesting tidbits from her former collaborators. But before we dive in, I'd first like to give you an update on where I've been for the last few months. So I've been dealing with a few health issues over the last few months, nothing serious, but just needing to take some time to deal with it all and go to these doctor appointments and taking supplements and medications and doing physical therapy and those kinds of things. And so between just not having a lot of time, just not actually having a lot of time, but also dedicating my time to working through these issues, and then also just not feeling my best some days and having low energy some days, or just feeling kind of down some days and just not being in the mood to do podcasting. So the few issues that I'm dealing with, one of them is a stomach issue that I've been dealing with for a couple of years. I'm trying to currently treat a condition called SIBO, which is an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine. And so I've been on different medications and stuff for it, and I'm currently taking some supplements for it. And it's just a very long process of trying to treat it. It's just months and months of trying different regimens basically to get rid of it fully. And it's just kind of a lot of things to keep up with and like different regimens to keep up with. And sometimes I get side effects from these supplements as well and just not feeling the greatest. And it's been kind of messing with my sleep and those kinds of things. The second issue that I'm in treatment for is pelvic floor therapy. So I have to go to appointments like every other week or every few weeks. And I also have to do exercises and therapy at home like 5 times a week. So that is also a lot to have to like dedicate time to. And the third thing that I'm dealing with is like tendonitis in my wrist. Like a few months ago, I did something to my wrist, like I overused it or I don't know what, and it's just never been the same since. And an orthopedist said that I just have tendonitis, and I've had a couple cortisone shots done to try to like bring the inflammation down. But other than that, I haven't really been able to do a lot with it. And I don't know if I might end up having to do physical therapy for that. So obviously like having this issue with my wrist especially makes computer work difficult. So like trying to edit this podcast might be kind of difficult. So if this episode might end up being less edited than what you're used to hearing from me, if I just maybe am struggling to try to edit it. So just a little disclaimer there, if this episode is not as cleanly edited as maybe you're used to hearing from me, I'm just trying to do the best that I can with the condition that I have right now. So with all of that, just dealing with like 3 different health issues at the same time, and they're not really being like a light at the end of the tunnel for any of them right now, and just kind of being in this long-term treatment for them between all the doctor appointments and medications and physical therapy and not feeling that great and not feeling great physically, not feeling great mentally, having my sleep be disrupted a lot. None of that helps anything either. So, you know, there were just a lot of days where I just would not have been in the mood to do a podcast, or I didn't have time to do it, or just physically couldn't do it. And also, like I've said before, like I work a full-time job and I'm a team of 1. So as much as I would love to be able to keep doing the podcast on a regular basis, I really wish I could do that. But unfortunately, even at the best of times, I am not really able to do that. And even less so now with all these health issues taking up a lot of my time and energy these days. And honestly, the whole year has been really difficult for me because of that, and dealing with like all the financial aspects of it as well, and the insurance and those kinds of things. So it's not really that hard to guess why I haven't been on here much. And I really wish that I had been able to keep doing episodes more regularly, especially because we're in such a dry period right now with Avril, which it's like a double-edged sword, because I'm grateful that we're in a dry period with her so that there's less pressure for me to keep up with the podcast right now while I can, you know, deal with all these health issues and just try to get better and work through them. But at the same time, that would have given me an opportunity to kind of do some of those more evergreen ideas I had talked about, especially the music videos idea that I had kept talking about. So yeah, it's just been not an optimal time right now for me to do podcasting, but just so much time has gone by that I really want to get on here and kind of do a little catch up and just talk about some of the few things that have been going on with Avril and some of the interesting sound bites that we've gotten from some of our collaborators and those kinds of things. And so I kind of just wanted to get on here and give everybody a little bit of an update. I was debating about whether to do a social media post about it on the podcast page regarding the delay, but I kind of decided against that for a couple reasons. Number one, because if I just did like an Instagram story, it would only be up for 24 hours and not everybody would necessarily see it. And then if I did a post on the page, it would be living there forever, basically. And then sometimes like sharing medical stuff is kind of tricky. Like it's kind of hard to share super personal stuff like that. And not everybody that listens to the podcast follows the Instagram page. So I just kind of thought it would be better just do a proper update in an episode where everybody would be able to hear it. So that's what's been going on with me. And I just, as always, appreciate everybody's patience. I know that like, while there's not anything going on with Avril, that when I do upload podcasts, people are grateful to have something kind of Avril related that they can enjoy while she's like taking a break and doing her own thing. So I really wish that I had been able to kind of, I guess, be that source of like Avril entertainment in the meantime, but I just could not do it with everything going on. So I just appreciate everybody's patience, as, you know, I've been in a dry period of my own, basically. So like I said, I don't know how many more episodes I'll be able to do right now, especially given Avril's level of activity, like what there really is to do episodes about right now. But I'm just thankful to have this time to be able to just work through my health issues and just try to recover and get better so that I can eventually come back to the podcast on a bit more regular basis than I am currently. As I said in the last couple episodes, that I was still thinking about doing the music videos idea. That is something that I still want to do, is go through all of Avril's music videos and just kind of give a little analysis of them or little fun like background catches and Easter eggs and stuff like that. But as I've said, that's a really time intensive project to do because she has well over 30 music videos at this point. So that would take me a lot of time to do, which I think now is the perfect time to do it. I just have to, you know, find time to be able to do that. And as I said too, we don't really know Avril's level of activity for the remainder of the year. She's been largely pretty out of the public eye, except for a couple events, like going to celebrity events and stuff like that. But she's largely not really been seen a lot, and we don't really know the reason why. So it's difficult to know like if she has anything planned for the rest of the year or if she's just gonna lay low or whatever. And so that kind of also makes it a little tricky to know what to do episodes about. So it's just kind of a playing it by ear, I guess. Like as far as the future of this podcast for the rest of the year, it's kind of just playing it by ear between depending on how I'm feeling and then whatever Avril is up to, I guess. So hopefully that is like enough of an update for everybody who listens to the podcast. That's what's happening with me, and that's kind of how I'm gonna handle the podcast going forward until I'm recovered from these issues and have a little bit more time to devote to it. Hopefully that kind of helps everybody understand like where I'm at this point and how I'm kind of thinking about the podcast moving forward. And so once again, I just appreciate everybody's patience on that. And I just thought that it was only fair that I kind of say like what's going on so that people aren't just wondering like if I've abandoned the podcast or anything like that. And that's not the case. I just literally haven't had the ability to work on it, unfortunately. So before I dive into the news and updates about Avril, going back to Avril and just talking about like the reason for her absence, I obviously don't know anything like why she's been so silent this whole year. Some people have speculated if she might be sick or if someone in her family is sick or something like that. And that's not to say that those things aren't possibilities. Like those are definitely things that I have considered as well. But I think given the fact that she attended Taylor Swift's wedding, which is something that we'll get to, that was a big thing, is that she attended Taylor Swift's wedding recently. I just feel like that would be a weird thing for her to do if she wasn't feeling okay. I mean, that's not to say that like she couldn't be dealing with something and still go to events. Like that's obviously possible. But we have seen her out and about a couple of times. Earlier this year, she went to Paris Hilton's birthday party. She was seen hanging around with this fashion designer friend of hers during Coachella weekend. She didn't actually go to Coachella, but she was seen, like there's a paparazzi video of her hanging around like in the LA area, just hanging out with her friend and then going to Taylor Swift's wedding. It just kind of seems like, I don't know, like just she wouldn't be doing that kind of thing if she was truly like going through something or if one of her family members was. So I'm taking that as a positive sign. Like, of course, I don't know anything and you can never really know what's going on in somebody's life, case in point. But I just kind of take that as a positive sign, at least, that I don't think anything is like truly going on with her that would be like, preventing her from doing that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it also doesn't seem like she's working on new music because we haven't gotten any studio updates. And I'm pretty sure John Feldman has been touring and stuff. So it's not to say that they couldn't be working like remotely together, or that obviously she can work with a bunch of other producers. She can work with him when he has off time. Like there's definitely ways around it. But I just kind of don't really get that vibe that she is currently working on anything, because we've just seen absolutely nothing from her. And her social media posts have been very minimal as well. They're basically just merch posts like that are probably most likely posted by her team. And she's sort of been like working on social media a little bit, like liking fans' posts here and there and things like that. But she seems to be pretty like just laying pretty low and going off the grid mostly right now. So I don't know if she's just taking time to live life, or she's taking a break after how busy the Love Sux and Grace Hits eras were. I had kind of thought to myself that you can't really like sit holed up in a studio and just expect ideas for songs to come. You really do have to go out and live life to get inspiration. And it just kind of seems like, I mean, after a bunch of the music that she was working on leaked, and then any music that she would have written about what was going on in her personal life at that time with Matson and Tyga and that whole thing, that was a few years ago at this point. And so it's pretty outdated. And so, maybe she's just looking for fresh material at this point. But you have to go out there and like live life to get that inspiration. Like maybe she's taking a trip somewhere like she did the summer of 2012. She lived in Paris for a while and she got inspiration that way. Like she could be doing something like that. Some people have speculated that she might have moved out of LA. I remember once recently, it was either during the Head Above Water era or the Love Sux era, in an interview, she had been asked if she would ever consider moving back to New York City again. And she said that she would, she wouldn't mind coming to live there again. So it's very possible that she might have moved out of LA and either moved back home to Canada to be closer to her family, or she's moved back to NYC. There's not really as many paparazzi in New York City, and a lot of celebrities can kind of just walk around and not really be bothered by anybody or papped or anything. So it's highly possible that that is where she is, and like she's just laying kind of low and people don't really notice that she's there. But then, like I said, that she was recently, earlier this year, she was at Paris Hilton's birthday party and she was in the LA area during Coachella weekend. So, I mean, not to say that she couldn't be living somewhere else and just fly back to the LA area for events and stuff anytime that she wants. Like, of course she can do that, but it seems less likely to me. So I don't know. I guess eventually we'll find out, at some point. I'm sure she'll have to share an update about something, but it is pretty unusual that like when the Living in Paradise collab came out, I mean, that's a collaboration with Bon Jovi. That's a really huge deal to have a collaboration with Bon Jovi, and she did not mention it whatsoever. And then she really didn't say much about the Ironic song that she put out either, especially because Alanis Morissette is such a big musical inspiration of hers. It's just very odd that she really didn't promote the song whatsoever. So there's definitely something interesting going on with her. Like it may not necessarily be anything bad. It might just be that she just wants to live off the grid, I guess, or just wants to kind of live offline a little bit more because she was so present online the last few years that maybe she just felt like she needed a break, or who knows. But I definitely think that when she has something substantial to share, that she will definitely be posting again. I think maybe she might just be doing a strategy where she wants people to miss her a little bit before she comes back to share something. Like if she was always active and always posting, then when she has something to share, like new music or some other project, it might just get kind of lost in the shuffle. But when she's been out of the limelight for so long, and then she finally comes back with some big news to share, it will feel so much more exciting because it's like, wow, we haven't heard from you in a long time. And then we come back with a bang and we really have something substantial. And I had actually had a theory that I wondered if she might have been working on the Skater Boy movie, but I feel like we would have heard something. Like we would have heard a little rumbling from someone, or we would have seen like a teaser, like even just posting a picture of the script, the front page of the script or something would have been a really cool teaser. But we've really not gotten anything. So I kind of just get the vibe that she is not necessarily working on any projects. But at the same time, she has proven time and time again that a lot of times when she's silent, she is working on stuff. So with her, you just kind of never really know. And I guess at this point, we just kind of have to be along for the ride and be surprised. So I think I've done more than enough yapping about all that. And now that I've updated you on what's going on with me, we can now dive into today's episode and get updated on Avril. Skater Boy was featured in season 2 of the Netflix show Devil May Cry. It's also featured as part of the newly redesigned Disney World attraction Rock'n' Roller Coaster starring the Muppets and can be heard in the courtyard where the ride is located. Hot was used in the intro of the Amazon Prime movie Your Fault London. Bite Me will be included in the upcoming video game stage tour, and I'm With You surpassed 500 million streams on Spotify, her 5th song to achieve this milestone and the 3rd from Let Go. On May 22nd, Chantal Karvazak released her own version of How Does It Feel from her new album In My Own Voice. She later posted an Instagram reel on May 29th performing the song on piano with a caption explaining how their partnership came about. She wrote, "On a warm summer night in Toronto in 2004, I entered an industry party with my husband. I was struck immediately. A small but wide set of stairs led to a living room installation, and on its couch, the teenage superstar at Avril Lavigne was sitting, alone. I was just pregnant with my first son at Rowan Maida, so I was epically maternal and drawn instantly to her. I felt protective of this, yes, most powerful and successful person in the room, who also in my eyes was so small, even delicate in stature. We hit it off, and my maternal instincts were met equally with her creative hunger and a trust that only one Canadian songstress would give to another. We shared an eagerness to befriend one another. Next thing I knew, we were writing songs on the floor of my husband's band's rehearsal space, #HeWasn't, and then a slew of others at our California home, #Together, where at Ray Maida would produce what we wrote. Avril was with me for almost the entire pregnancy and was the first person to hold our newborn son. It's hard to birth something. We suffer for that beautiful baby to come out. I equate these massive songs which I have written for others to being like my babies. A lot happened for them to be born. With Avril, there are 7 total on #Under My Skin. That's a lot of babies. I miss that time. We spent so much time together. It's kind of crazy now to think back. We laughed a lot, we shared many meals and secrets and even tears. I will always remember Avril as someone who loves to laugh and be creative and sing, and she loves to shower people with gifts and affection and plan parties and surprises. Avril must be such an inherently strong person, just as I saw her on that first night. The most powerful person in the room, but so tiny. I'm not sure people in the general public realize what kind of strength it takes to navigate being a teen superstar. Now that I have had teens of my own, I'm more in awe of her than ever. That she navigated her success, not only survived it, but built upon it, activated her generosity on a profound level by creating a foundation, and has now given so much back to the world. Pretty impressive stuff, Miss Lavigne. #How Does It Feel? #In My Own Voice. On the same day, Lauren Christie did an interview with Daniel Wall of the podcast Behind the Wall, discussing her songwriting, including the songs she wrote with Avril for Let Go, and shared the original songwriting tape for Complicated, which originally had a different melody for the verse and pre-chorus. She also revealed that Avril was the one who came up with the idea to use the word complicated in the lyrics, and that she came up with the line, "When you strike your pose," as well as the fact that Avril recorded the song in one take. Additionally, she revealed that Avril rarely gives clearance to sample her songs, but that she agreed to give clearance for I'm With You to be sampled in Rihanna's Cheers Drink to That. She also revealed that Avril was a fan of her song I Want What I Want, which may explain why Avril had recorded her own version of it during the Head Above Water sessions. She also shared a letter that Avril had written to Lauren on her last day of recording, which was September 27, 2001, Avril's 17th birthday. She wrote, "Hey Lauren, I'm recording in the booth right now. Today is my last day and you're making me sing my ass off. God, my throat hurts. Anyway, you'll get this letter when I'm gone. I had so much fun getting pampered, straight hair, eating cakes, getting flowers and diamonds on my toes, and all the other girly stuff we did. Thanks for all your hard work. Love ya, Avril." Lauren additionally shared that she took Avril to her hairdresser to show Avril how to straighten her hair, which she was wearing in braids at the time, which is what inspired Avril to continue straightening her hair. Lauren additionally revealed in another podcast interview for She Creates Noise from earlier in the year that the recording sessions for Let Go took place in August and September 2001, over the course of 10 weeks after Avril's label had heard Complicated and Falling Down, the first 2 songs written with The Matrix, in July 2001. On June 26, a new merch collection was released to celebrate the 15th anniversary of Goodbye Lullaby this past March, including the What the Hell t-shirt and a zip hoodie, a smile hoodie, a pillow, and a set of wine glasses. On the same day, John Feldman appeared on the podcast Gone Fishkin, where he briefly discussed his time working with Avril on the Goldfinger track Here in Your Bedroom, calling it an honor to have her on the song. He also discussed their creative process working together, where he described Avril as an amazing songwriter and a visionary that knows how she wants songs to sound and what production elements to leave in or take out. On July 4th, the celebrity gossip site Dumois reported Avril attended Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding at Madison Square Garden on July 3rd, participating in late-night karaoke with fellow guests Sierra, Kesha, The Chainsmokers, Sabrina Carpenter, and Tate McRae. Sports personality and fellow wedding guest Pat McAfee later revealed on his show that Avril had performed Skater Boy and said she was awesome. To be clear, those musicians, really cool. Like, one would just call out the other, and then they would come up, and then they would just do their shit. Page Six also reported that Avril won a Chanel handbag in a raffle at the wedding. Fellow guest Simone Biles later revealed that Avril had accidentally taken her sunglasses home, and Simone had DM'd her to get them back, but that Avril has yet to see the message. Unlike several other guests who attended, there are no photos of Avril going to the event, and Avril herself has not posted on her social accounts about attending. And on July 5th, Ariana Grande used I'm With You in an Instagram reel. So my really quick thoughts on these little tidbits before we go. I just want to say that I loved hearing the little stories from everybody about working with Avril, their experience working with Avril, especially when she was very young and in the beginning stages of her career. I think it's always so interesting to hear anything that people can share about their experience of working with her, whether it was very early on those early records or now when she's obviously a seasoned pro. And it's always so interesting to hear people's different perspectives and like what they each take away from their sessions working with her, because obviously they're all going to be different. I especially really enjoyed Chantel's Instagram post because it was obviously super detailed. I did want to clarify that there were a couple of errors in her post in case anybody's wondering. She said that she had met Avril in Toronto in 2004, but obviously since the record came out in 2004, it would have actually been summer 2003. I think she probably was just misremembering, probably because the record came out in 2004, but it would have been 2003, I think is what she meant. And then she also said that they had done 7 songs for Under My Skin, but I think there's only 6 of them on the record. And so I think the 7th one that she's including must be Daydream. So even though it wasn't officially on the record and it was eventually given to Miranda Cosgrove, I think she might just be thinking like, oh, we did 7 songs together. So in case anybody's wondering, like, wait, some of this information doesn't really make sense, I think she probably just maybe misremembered some details or made a mistake. But the point still stands that what she in general had to say about working with Avril, I think is really interesting, especially talking about Avril being present for most of Chantel's pregnancy, I think is really interesting. Because I do remember seeing that picture of Avril holding Chantel's newborn son, and Avril was like the first person to hold him and stuff. So that is definitely a very special bond that they share. And I know that a lot of people remember that little thing that they had about the Best Damn Thing credits and stuff. And yeah, like that was definitely an unfortunate thing that happened between them. But I feel like that's just kind of water under the bridge and doesn't negate the special things that they had working together from before. And like I said, it's just really cool to see Chantel like willing to talk about her experience working with Avril, even though that did happen. But she was willing to share something that, you know, we hadn't really heard before about how they got to working together and the things that the way that she feels about Avril, even now, all these years later, the way that she felt about her then, the way that she feels about her now. And just hearing about that. I mean, I think we had known that they were really close, but I think this really gives us insight into how close they really were, that it was almost like they were like sisters. I also loved hearing from Lauren Christy. Like I always love hearing from Lauren about her experience working with Avril early on in those, Let Go days. But I loved hearing about the letter that Avril had written to her on the last day of recording together. Because, I mean, that's definitely something we had never seen shared before, this letter that Avril had written to her. And I think it's really sweet that Avril wrote a letter to Lauren, like thanking her for her contributions to the album and stuff. Like that's a really class act move of Avril to write a handwritten letter to her collaborators. Given how young she was, and it was only her first album, but I thought that was such a professional move to do, to like write handwritten letters to her collaborators and thank them for their work. And it was really interesting to hear about the ways in which Avril and Lauren had bonded. Like it really seems like Lauren kind of helped set Avril up for a lot of the things that she would go on to do, like not just the obvious with the music, but I'm pretty sure that sweater that Avril was wearing on the cover of Let Go, I think Lauren had gotten her one, like she had one similar and Avril liked it, and Lauren got her one just like it or something. And then talking about bringing her to her hairdresser and having her straighten her hair and stuff, it was really cool to hear how that's the story that got Avril into straightening her hair, because as we know, she used to wear it in braids a lot because she had this wild, like really unruly hair at the time. And so she was wearing it in braids to kind of keep it under control. And then this is how she found out like about hair straightening. And that became such an iconic hallmark part of her look that era. I mean, it still is to this day, but especially back then, she was known for like the pin straight hair. And it's just crazy to think that we basically would have never probably had that. I mean, maybe at some point she would have been introduced to that, but it's pretty wild that that's kind of what started it. So it's just like that neither one of them had any idea at the time how much that was going to become an iconic part of Avril's look. It was just like, oh, let me bring you to my hairdresser. And that was the thing that kind of kickstarted one of Avril's most iconic looks. I just love getting to hear like little origin stories like that and how certain things started, like where they came from. And then I also liked hearing about John Feldman speaking about how Avril helps produce her songs and her ear for producing, because we don't really have too much behind the scenes about like her making of albums and stuff, we have some making of for like The Best Damn Thing and Goodbye Lullaby. And, here and there we have gotten some little behind the scenes about how she puts songs together. But I always find that part of the process so fascinating to watch. And I would really love to see more of it. I don't know if we'll ever get that for some of her future records, but I would really love to see that. Like, that's kind of been more of a recent trend with some artists where they're putting out like voice memos of their songs on their new albums and behind the scenes videos and showing the process of how they make their music. And I just think it's so fascinating. And I would love to see Avril do that for some of her future albums. But I think that's something that we kind of don't think about with Avril. Like, I think that's not necessarily a part of the process that we ever really think about. Like, I think we just think of her as a singer and a songwriter, and she's sitting there writing the music and she's the one singing it. But I think we don't really tend to think about how she actually contributes to the production of it. And yes, like, she is usually co-producing or having somebody else produce it, and she's just kind of weighing in with her own opinions. But it's such a fascinating part of the process that I think we don't really get to hear or see very often. And obviously the way that a song is produced makes a massive difference in how good the song is. Like, it could be well written, but if it's not produced like in the best way, it kind of brings it down. The fact that I think this is something that a lot of her collaborators have talked about is that Avril has a really good ear for thinking, like, she doesn't just have a good ear for melody, but she kind of has a good ear for thinking, like, the way that things should sit in a mix, or the balance of the instruments, or, we should take this out and put this in. And so I would love to hear more, like, in even more detail about the experience of that. And I'm sure that as she's gotten further into her career and working with producers that she feels really comfortable with, like John Feldmann, that she has felt more confident, especially because she has had some experience solo producing now, that I think she understands the process a little bit more, and she kind of feels comfortable contributing more to that aspect of her music, not just writing it and laying down the vocals, but actually giving her opinions about, how she thinks it should actually sound, and building the track and building it from the ground up, and how the whole thing will actually come together. I think that's such a skill to be able to do that, as well as not just be able to write the song and to sing it, but being able to contribute to how you think it should sound overall is a skill. Something else that I thought was really curious is why they're coming out with a merch collection for Goodbye Lullaby several months after the album's anniversary. I just thought that was like really strange, but I guess not atypical for Avril's team at this point. For some reason, they're always doing things kind of on a weird schedule. So I don't know if like maybe they had planned it. Maybe there was a delay with the production at the factories or something, or maybe it was going to take way longer than they expected it to, and it wasn't actually ready for March. Who knows? But I just thought that was kind of odd. I personally didn't order anything from the collection, but I think it's nice in a way that they're acknowledging it, even if it's just with a merch collection and it's like the 15-year anniversary, not the 20-year anniversary. But it's always nice when they acknowledge her album anniversaries in some way. And I honestly wasn't expecting them to acknowledge Goodbye Lullaby because it is one of her like less commercially successful albums. And so I was not at all expecting them to acknowledge Goodbye Lullaby. So that was a nice surprise. And last but not least, we obviously can't forget to talk about Avril attending the wedding of the century, Taylor Swift's wedding, and performing karaoke. I honestly didn't expect her to be invited. Like, I know that Taylor and Travis invited reportedly 1,000 people, so that definitely leaves a lot of room open to invite lots and lots of people. But I had thought because they only basically met like one time, and I mean, yes, they performed together back in 2015, and then they've been supportive of each other over the years with sending each other flowers and stuff when they've put out albums. I remember Avril had said that Folklore was one of her favorite albums, and Taylor had sent Avril flowers when she put out Love Sucks. So it's like they've always been, supportive of one another. But I didn't think it was the kind of relationship that would warrant being invited to someone's wedding. But I'm also not Taylor, and I don't know what the criteria was for inviting people to the wedding. So it's really cool regardless. Like, I didn't expect Avril to be invited. I thought for sure, like, they hardly know each other. I would find it hard to believe that Avril would be invited, but it was really cool that Taylor did think to invite her. I'm just curious to see what Avril wore, but unfortunately she hasn't posted any pictures, and the paparazzi were snapping a lot of photos of celebrities leaving their hotels and stuff because it took place in New York City. So there were a lot of hotel pat pics of different celebrities attending, but unfortunately Avril wasn't one of them. So we have no idea where she was staying. That is another theory that people have, is that maybe that indicates that Avril might be living in NYC, and that's why we didn't see any pat pictures of her. But regardless, we did not get any pat pictures of Avril attending. Avril didn't post any pictures herself, so we have no idea what she wore. It's also really neat that she took part in karaoke and just did her thing with a bunch of the other guests who were there. And also that she won a Chanel handbag in this raffle that they had. Like, I guess they had these games, like carnival games, and then you could get raffle tickets and redeem them for a gift. And they had like designer handbags and stuff that you could win. So a Chanel handbag absolutely seems up Avril's alley. And I'm sure she was incredibly excited to get that. Like, just knowing her, knowing that she is a big fan of Chanel, I can absolutely see her being excited to get that. I also think it's funny that apparently she took Simone Biles' sunglasses and she hasn't seen the DM yet to get them back, which kind of indicates that maybe Avril is not really online all that much. That kind of confirms the theory that Avril is laying low for a while and maybe off the grid a little bit. But yeah, I think that's pretty funny, honestly, and just a really funny, such a random anecdote. Like, where I had seen that was that somebody had asked Simone Biles to share something about Taylor's wedding, and that was the thing that she chose to share, which I thought was pretty funny. And it also seems very, like, just a very Avril thing to do, to accidentally take someone's sunglasses and then not see a DM to get them back. Very on brand for Avril. And lastly, I want to say that I loved to see Ariana Grande using I'm With You in an Instagram reel, because I am not only a big Taylor fan, I'm also a big Ariana fan. The three of them are my top 3 favorite artists. And that reel got a lot of positive comments on it, I think, as well, when people saw the song being used. Like, it's really nice that when people bring up Avril's older music, it incites a lot of positive comments from people that aren't even necessarily fans, just people that fondly remember Avril's old music and have this kind of fond nostalgia for her. It's really nice to always see people that remember Avril in that way and that have such a fondness for her old music. And hopefully that will continue whenever Avril ends up putting out new music, that people will be excited to check out her new music whenever that ends up being. So I think that about does it for this bonus episode of the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast. Like I said, I will just be working on episodes as I'm able to in my current condition, like as I'm working on all these health issues, and between having the time to do it, having the energy to do it, and depending on what's going on with Avril, whenever she decides to emerge from her cocoon and delight us all with whatever she's working on. You know, that's just, I guess, where I'm taking my cues from for future episodes. And if not, then I will do one of my evergreen ideas or do that music videos idea that I discussed. But I sure hope that you will continue to stick with me, even if it takes me a little while to put out episodes. I definitely appreciate everybody who decides to stick with me and listen to the episodes whenever they end up coming out, and that, you know, you always leave nice feedback on them and that you enjoy them. And I'm just happy to be able to discuss Avril. Honestly, like these last few months when I've been kind of down a lot of days, just having something positive to discuss and discussing one of my favorite topics kind of helps me feel a little more like myself again. So I'm just happy that people enjoy listening as much as I enjoy putting it together and discussing one of my favorite topics. So I can't honestly say for certain when the next episode's going to be out, or if it will be, you know, a few more months until I get another episode out. So I just want to be very clear about that. I may not be able to get a new episode out that soon after this one, depending on what's going on, but I will certainly do my best. And in the meantime, again, I just appreciate everybody for sticking with me. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you can get new episodes whenever they drop directly in your feed. And please don't forget to take a minute to leave a rating or review to help more fans find the show. We're currently streaming on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, and Audible. Be sure to join me again next time on the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast. The Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast is hosted, produced, and edited by Andrea DiFrancesco. Theme music is HD and Lights by J. Powell Flicks. Follow the latest podcast news on Instagram at bestdamnavrilpod or email bestdamnavrilpod@yahoo.com.